Hi, I'm New Mexico attorney Nadia Cabrera-Mazio, and in this video we're talking about whether you should move your agricultural land into an LLC. Moving land into an LLC means transferring ownership to the LLC. So if you were to do that, you would personally no longer own that land. The LLC would own the land. But you control and own the LLC, so you still have control over the land, but not legal ownership. So keep that in mind. People think about doing this because they think that LLCs provide automatic liability protection. This is not necessarily true, or at least it's not the most realistic way of looking at it. And we did another video on how to protect your personal assets that discusses all of the hoops that you have to jump through to actually create a strong liability shield for your business. If you don't follow those proper practices to maintain a strong liability shield, then it's not going to be worth it to do all the paperwork, pay all the fees, and not get that liability protection benefit. The short answer of whether you should move your ag land into an LLC is probably not, but it depends on a bunch of factors, and there are several things to consider. The first thing to consider is where the threats that you want protection from are coming from. So if you own the land personally and you think that there's a high possibility that you are going to be personally sued and can therefore expose the land that you own to that judgment, you might lose the land because you have to pay out a lawsuit or defaulted on a loan or something like that. That's one thing. If you want to protect the land from creditors of your business, then it will not make sense to move the land into the business that is engaging in that high risk activity, because then that land is being exposed to the business creditors directly. And that defeats the liability protection between you and your personal assets and the debts of your business. Just to be clear, there is nothing wrong with your ag business owning land. It's just that for that protection benefit, you try to keep those things separate. So the way that wealthy people do it and stuff like that is that they create an entirely new LLC to own their real estate. And then that kind of insulates the real estate from any of their other businesses or any personal risk exposure that they might have. This absolutely works. It's a great idea, but it requires a lot of careful attention and administrative effort. I generally do not recommend this to a lot of owner-operators like farmers and ranchers who are already spread really thin and are already focusing a lot of energy and effort on maintaining that strong liability protection between themselves personally and the ag business. When you add another LLC or corporation onto that, then it creates a double burden administratively of maintaining a second strong liability shield. It's also a little tricky to maintain a landowning LLC whose sole purpose is to own and manage that land, because you have to create paper records and you have to create official business practices to show that the purpose of that LLC is land ownership and management. It's not that difficult. You can absolutely do it, but you have to be very sure of your administrative capacity to do that. Another major consideration for whether to move land into an LLC, whether it's your ag LLC or a brand new LLC whose sole purpose is to own and manage that land, is the capital gains tax. There are exceptions, but generally whenever ownership changes for any type of real estate, whether it's land, a house, commercial property, anything like that, it triggers the capital gains tax. So if you're thinking of transferring ownership of your land to somebody else or to a business, you should absolutely consult with a tax or finance professional to make sure that it's not going to trigger the capital gains, or if it is, that you have a strategy to navigate that. So for those reasons, it's probably not the best idea to move your ag land into your ag business or into a new LLC unless you feel very confident that you are able to be really informed about the potential consequences and able to navigate all of those things and the administrative burden to actually protect yourself, your business, and the land.